All right, everyone, it's 5 o'clock here. We'll call the meeting to order. I'll now call the committee of the whole meeting to order. Then acknowledgement statement. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge with respect to history, spirituality, the culture of the Shinnebec, people of Three Fires known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi Nation, who have inhabited this land from time immemorial. And further give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, now known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, as the traditional keepers of this land. We also recognize the Métis and Inuit, whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. May we all, as treaty people, live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all diverse peoples. Approval of the agenda. I do have an agenda here. That the agenda be approved as presented, but I would like to amend the agenda for the official plan public meeting to allow delegations that are in the council chambers to present tonight also. So if there's a mover and a seconder for that, we'll just make that slight change to the agenda. Shouldice, Councillor Winters, all any discussion? All the vote, all those in favor? It's carried. Declaration of pecuniary interest. Is any declaration of pecuniary interest? Good.
Same reasons as before, different company. I have the text right here. The Integrity Commissioner has confirmed that I have a disqualifying interest in item 9.2.1 on today's agenda on the basis that I have a longstanding close personal relationship with persons who are employed by or are in management with GEI Consultants.
But announcements. Does any member wish to make an announcement? Not seeing any. All right, official plan public meeting and education session. Recommendation reads that the regular meeting of the committee of the whole be recessed to hold a public meeting for the updates of the official plan. Need a mover and a seconder? Mayor Carlton, Shouldice, and any discussion on the case? Call the vote. All those in favor? That's carried. All right. This public meeting has been called to consider feedback from the public regarding updates to the township's draft official plan amendment. Madam Clerk, please advise the method by which notice of this public meeting was given.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Notice of this public meeting was posted on the Township of Georgian Bluffs website and published in local newspapers commencing April 30th, 2024. If a person or public body would otherwise have the ability to appeal the decision of the Corporation of the Township of Georgian Bluffs to the Ontario Land Tribunal, but the person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the township before the proposed official plan amendment is adopted, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision. If the person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the township before the official plan amendment is adopted, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so.
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, we invite planning consultants J.L. Richards to present. Welcome Rebecca Eltek and David Wellwood. Oh, hey, Michael.
Your indulgence, I will take over.
Right ahead.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, committee and staff and members of the public. Just for the members in the audience, both in person and virtual, introduce myself, Michael Benner, Director of Development and Infrastructure Services for the township, and I am pleased to present this evening's official plan update for launch into our Provo public meeting. Before we get into the public meeting component, we just have a very brief presentation to kind of go over to educate ourselves with the official plan, the update, and some of the changes that we're looking to for our new official plan. Slide, please. Is that what you're doing, or do you want to do that? Okay. So very briefly, We'll go over a bit of a project overview and then jump into the 7 sections that we've kind of looked at in our official plan update. Next slide. So bit of a background, a bit of planning 101. And what is an official plan, and how does the municipality kind of transition into that? In the province of Ontario, there are, as we're all aware, there are a number of acts and policy statements, plans that municipalities need to be cognizant of and actually kind of include in any of our planning policy documents. Those include the Planning Act, provincial policy statement, and other provincial plans such as the Escarpment Commission, actually the Niagara Escarpment Plan Act as it's called, and as well as other legislation, both provincially and federally, that we need to take into consideration. Those plans actually boil into the Grey County's official plan, and then as a lower tier, they end up becoming part of our official plan, and those plans are actually then enacted in our zoning bylaw. So essentially what an official plan is, it's essentially the umbrella policy document for the municipality, and it establishes how land should and used and will be used to meet the needs of our community. It's adopted by council and then approved by the county, who is acting on behalf of the province. It addresses several matters such as housing, where you would see development occurring in terms of densities and infills and things like that. It also has a lot of policies that are directed towards the protection of our municipality in terms of both our natural heritage as well as our cultural heritage. And that's all informed by the policies that I was speaking with earlier, as well as the county's official plan. Why do we need to update our official plan? Well, the Planning Act stipulates that municipalities have to review our official plans every 10 years. The township's official plan was first adopted in August of 2012, and then finally approved by the province through the Ontario Municipal Board, now the Ontario Lands Tribunal in 2014. So we started the project to implement the new official plan a while ago, and while we were working on that project, the provincial policy statement and the Planning Act changed. Had more updates coming in with the 2020 provincial policy statement, as well as the County of Grey's official plan was adopted and changed in 2019. There have also been more recent changes over the last couple of years. Bill 109, Bill 23, Bill 97, changes to the AODA, the Accessibility of Ontario policies, and what have you. So all of that has been kind of added into our official plan as we move forward. The official plan has several sections to it. There's what's been happening to it. We started out with a background review a few years ago. Now looked at some of the more recent legislation, trends, and changes in growth and settlement in the area. We undertook some consultation with not only the phase 1 background report, but we also reached out to various agencies would have input in our official plan. And we also reached out to our local community through online surveys, as well as an open house that we held last fall. I think that was, or because it had been early this year. I had the date, and now I lost it, but it was since I've been here, so it's been within the last year. So when you update an official plan, there's, just like you would with a small amendment to an official plan, even updating whole document goes through a formal process, and that's the official plan amendment process. So, what we've done is, consultants and I and others have drafted several components to our official plan that we want to amend to bring the official plan up to date. That those amendments, those changes have been circulated to view agencies in the county and the province, and we've received a lot of feedback from mostly the county, but also some provincial stakeholders as well as conservation authorities, as well as a number of residents and stakeholders. So it's always good to see. And a lot of that occurred after our public open house. So over the last several months, we've been working very, very hard on pulling a lot of this information together. And I have to say, it's not been me. It's been mostly our consultants, T.L. Richards, who've been doing a lot of the heavy lifting. And then that comes back with a finalized official plan, and part of that finalized official plan is this public meeting that we have. See, I'm just jumping into the components of it very quickly. We've looked at some updates to our long-range planning and updated population and employment figures that we received from the 2021 census. That's showing some changes and some different trends to our population growth. And also from a policy perspective, the province has updated policy framework where we now need to look at those growth numbers a little bit differently and provide longer supplies for actually a 15-year supply for vacant lands as it is for residential development. So those kind of policies are now in our updated official plan, and that provides direction to planning and development department to really start to look at how the municipality should be growing over the next several years to maintain that supply of vacant lands. Getting on to our tourism and recreational components, a big part of those new policies reflect our short-term accommodations. And the policies are fairly general and broad-based, as we plan. The policy should be an official plan, but they do tend to some areas kind of tune in on some more specific policies that will eventually roll into our licensing and regulatory frameworks, as well as our zoning bylaw. And moving on to economic development, a big part of big change that you'll see from the existing plan to the updated plan is recognizing cannabis. That has really taken off in the last several years and needed to be included in our new official plan or updated official plan. A big part of that was the use of separation distances from sensitive receptors, just residential uses, and using site plan control to update and manage licensed cannabis production facilities within the township. In terms of transportation and services, there's a lot of really neat stuff that we can start to work on. There's been a lot of changes, both legislatively as well as best practices, and coming down in the province for the last several years. We're kind of mirroring those from a policy perspective anyways in our official plan. Some promotion of traffic calming and pedestrian safety improvements, as well as some more considerations for active transportation networks and active transportation that's not only on road, but also trails management. In terms of water and wastewater and stormwater management, there's been some changes to that. We're looking at more recognition of potential or hopefully eventual full services anticipated for these liquid settlement areas. Hopefully within that 15 to 20 year, 2046 planning horizon. And we're also looking at how to change some of our settlement area designations. Because we know our old official plan had tertiary settlements. Now the county didn't want that anymore, so we're looking at primary settlement areas. One of the big changes for that was the hopefully future redesignation of the areas of primary settlement areas for the township. And that ties back to the potential for both municipal sewer and water services. So area that would trigger that primary settlement area designation. A big part of the what I like anyways, a big part of the official plan updates centered around climate change. As we all know, climate change is becoming more and more prevalent as we see impacts on our weather systems and impacts on our infrastructure, trying to deal with increased storms and the energy coming from the storms. Climate change also can be more personalized for us. And there's policies in the plan that speak to renewable energy technologies, as well as more sustainable building and landscaping requirements, or not requirements, but recommendations in our official plan. There's also a commitment to regularly review our climate change projections and use those to inform our land use. Dark skies is a very, I think we all feel that that's a very important component to Georgian Bluffs and the rural landscape that we have in Grey County. And there's new policies framework in place, and a more robust policy framework regarding of dark skies, policies, parts of light pollution. We also have some changes to our natural resources and hazard land mapping, discussions with the county and the Conservation Authority, and we have new policy frameworks in place that reflect the Grey County official plan policies regarding our bedrock and shale resource areas. And we also have updated requirements for technical studies that again reflect the county's official plan requirements, as well as those of the Conservation Authority. And then getting near the end, there's a new emphasis in our updated policies related to source water protection. A lot of the source water protection policies came out right as our previous or our current official plan was being formulated. So we've had to provide a reflection of those now established policies in our updated official plan framework. And they identify our risk areas, but they also provide some policies that manage significant developments and how they would have an impact on our drinking water resources, as well as our source of those drinking water. And not only in the Georgian Bay, Sound and Hope's Bay area, but also some of our smaller lakes and some of our private waters. There's also last but not least, is I think a nice new policy area that acknowledges our traditional territories of the Anishinaabeg Nation and people of the Three Fires, as well as the whole of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation and other cultural groups, such as the Métis Nation. So we have some more new policies that better reflect our relationship with our traditional lands and cultural heritage resources on a greater level that wasn't in our that isn't in our existing official plan. And to kind of bring that all up, we've can't have a planning policy without some mapping associated with it. So we've updated every land use schedule that we've had in the official plan. And as you can see on slides, there's a bit of a example of our this would be Schedule A from our official plan, and it shows how we have some of our own second or settlement areas that listed there, and there's also a new transportation schedule that was included in our official plan that identifies our road network and classifications. So that's kind of it in terms of overview of the updates to our official plan. The purpose of tonight's public meeting is to really give the public an opportunity to make representations on the official plan amendment and any comments or anything like that comes forward. And to talk briefly about next steps is typically what we do with committee of the whole is you'll see it, especially for site-specific applications. We typically have a bit of a public meeting, get comments in, and right away we write a report for council's consideration. And in this instance, we're going to take a little bit of a step back from that because of the magnitude and the importance of a new official plan or updated official plan. Two words are almost interchangeable a lot because we've made so many changes to this official plan. But so tonight we'll have our public meeting. Following that, staff will take any comments received back to work with our consultants and county being our approval authority in this instance to see how better we can change the official plan based on any comments received. And then kind of the formal process moving forward is we'll come back with a recommendation report to committee of the whole and council requesting that council consider the adoption of the official plan. And then once we have that adoption, then we take that forward through a kind of a notice of adoption to the county for approval, and they're our approval authority in this instance. So they'll take the whole matter internally to them, and they'll write reports to county council recommending, I hope, the approval of the official plan. And then once that's done, then that triggers a appeal process, and providing nothing gets appealed, then it gets approved by county and possibly, not so sure on this, whether or not the province will weigh in, but I think at this point, probably county approval is as far as we'll need to go. It'll be approved by the county, and then we'll have an update. So with that, I'm kind of done the presentation. Certainly open to any questions or comments from committee before we open it up to the public.
Thank you, Michael, for stepping in and doing that presentation there. We don't have either Rebecca or David. Yeah, thanks, Michael, for stepping in and doing that. Does council have any questions for this time for Michael? If not, we'll go to the, okay, go ahead, Isaac. Councilor Schulweis.
Thank you. First of all, thanks, Michael, for that presentation. That was really well done. I don't have a question as much as I have a comment, but I wanted to say that I really appreciated the dark skies mentioned in there. I think I'm really proud that our municipality is prioritizing that. And a little comment about what I've done this past week. On Monday, I met with the physician recruitment committee. And then on Tuesday, I took 2 of the med students out for a walk to Bruce Caves. And they aren't from here, they're from Windsor. So I said, what have you enjoyed most about being up here? And they said, the stars, it's great, the night sky is amazing. And I said, actually, a couple of weeks ago, it was so clear you could see the Aurora Borealis. So I'm just happy that was there. So thank you.
Schulweis, for sure. Any other comments from council? Councilor Winters.
Thank you. Through you to Michael. Michael, just a question, and as I read it, I mean, East Linton makes the most sense for primary settlement area. there's a water treatment plant there. There's a potential of sewage hookup and things like that. But I look at the town plot of Brook, which was properly surveyed years ago. I mean, the lot fabric already exists. It needs water, it needs sewer. It doesn't fall in a primary settlement, I'm assuming. It's probably more of a secondary sort of thing in the official plan. Just wondering why we don't focus more on intensifying what already exists. There's going to be money spent one way or the other for servicing. You know, I had plans years ago in my own mind and what I thought that would look like and different things, but yeah, just wondering why we don't focus more on that. I mean, it needs full services. We recognize that. I'm not suggesting we do anything without that. But so those lot fabrics of 66 by 132 were already surveyed back in the 1800s. It sits there kind of stagnant, but we already recognize lot fabric without taking other additional farmlands and agricultural lands for development.
Yeah, through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councilor Winters. I'm actually glad you brought that up because it kind of speaks to not so much the next steps in the official plan, but more of the perhaps some program direction that development infrastructure services like to go to. One of the nice things about the official plan, it kind of lays the stage for more additional policy work. And that, along with the recent changes to the provincial policy statement, really opens up a good segue into doing some more long-range planning to municipality. Looking at, we've already, as you are very much aware, we're already looking at the water services in the East Renton area. We've had some discussion on potential for sewage and infrastructure in that area. And from a planning perspective, that kind of speaks to the idea of doing the growth management strategy and what we call as planners secondary plans, like a mini official plan for that whole area. So that's kind of hoping that'll be on our work program of next year or two. And that way we'd have a really good sense of not only looking at Eastland, but also Brook and perhaps even Shallow Lake as some of our primary settlement areas. Have more than one. I think that's something that will be supported.
Councilor Day.
Thank you. I really appreciate all the work that's been happening on this, and it's probably not hard to guess. I appreciate the climate change focus a great deal. I was just wondering if you could clarify one or two things. For source water protection, I feel like it's important that we are clear about what we actively protect and what is outside of the Grey Sauble and municipal boundaries for source water protection. And I just feel like that's something a lot of folks are unfamiliar with how all of that works, but relevant to us at this point in time.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, Councilor, I'll try my best at this. So the Clean Water Act, kind of bit of background on this. Clean Water Act created, for lack of a better word, source water authorities, and the Grey Sauble Conservation Authority has an arm of that authority. That's our source water protection authority, and they've studied the area and they've identified areas where we would have our water intakes for our Eastland water system, for instance. And they've also identified other areas up in Oxenden, Wyerton area where they have their water intake. And they've also identified other areas, say Shallow Lake, where there's a third water intake. And when they look at those areas, they look at the potential for risk for contaminating those intake areas, whether they're a water intake in a body of water or in a wellhead area. And so what we have, they back up a little bit. So the Source Water Protection Authority has identified areas of risk or potential risk, and they've basically done a study moving out from the source of the intake. Moving out, they've identified as you move away from it, your timing of risk is greater because it takes a little while longer for the say a contaminant to get to the source. So they've identified types of uses that should not be located in close proximity to those sources, and then also the activities in those uses. If say you have a in Shallow Lake, for instance, where you have a source, your intake source is really localized. So within that certain area around that intake, you would not want to have a fuel depot or something like that that would provide an immediate impact to contaminate that water source. So the policies and the official plans speak to that. They reflect those protection policies that come out of the province, but also the Source Water Protection Authority.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I feel like when you were speaking, but not in text on this slide, you might have mentioned private wells. And I just feel like it might be a good distinction to make that the private water supplies are not part of the source water protection, if I have that correct. So if we're doing anything about private water protection, perhaps it's promoting the low impact development standards and promoting as opposed to regulating, just to make it really clear.
Yeah, no, I thank you, Deputy Mayor Pringle, and through you to Councillor Day and Michael's answer to the question from the source water perspective. You're quite correct. We have a large number of residents that rely on private drinking water sources, which are not captured within source water protection plans and the risk management plans that go with them. And really, when it comes to those private drinking water supplies, it's community working together to protect them, and certainly something with changing climate, changing environment, is one of the reasons why we're keen to focus development where we can in areas which are serviced and non-municipal servicing, to make sure that we have control and protection over drinking water sources where we can. The reality is that much of the township does rely on private drinking water systems. Low impact design and development is one way in which rural owners can look to mitigate how stormwater moves across properties and so on and so forth, and that does have impacts on drinking water wells, as does the way in which land is managed, trying to reduce the amount of salt you use on driveways, considering permeable landscaping designs, to make sure that groundwater sources are recharged in an adequate way and that water's not rushing off and not carrying contaminants with it when it gets into groundwater sources. So there are a variety of different ways in which people can look to protect their own drinking water supplies and everything else like that. But yes, they're beyond the scope of source water management, beyond the scope of the official plan directly. But as Mr. Ben has pointed out, our official plan seeks to identify the areas where we would like to see development. And certainly one of the reasons why we like to see development in certain places and encouraged in certain places is because the municipality is able to provide for partial or full servicing in those areas.
Okay, yeah.
But if anyone from the community has questions, I would like to prioritize those for the community meeting. I'm just curious about cannabis, bedrock and shale extraction and wildland fire. I don't remember talking about those items in a council meeting. So are those topics that are coming through changed legislation to our official plan? And if I spoke too fast, it's cannabis, bedrock and shale extraction and wildland fire.
To Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Priest, Councillor Day, yes, those are direct reiterations of policies coming down from the province, as well as more current Grey County official plan. They've identified several areas within their countywide official plan that we need to reflect in our own local official plan.
Yep, go ahead.
Thank you. That answered my question perfectly. And then one, maybe two, depending on how, if I combine them. in slide 7, it mentions as an example, development charges. We don't have development charges in Georgian Bluffs. So I just, for housing, were there really specific things to Georgian Bluffs that we are changing to make affordable housing more attainable? And has there been thought about development charges and having them or not? Because we can't reduce from 0.
Go ahead.
And again, through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Day, you're correct. The township does not have development charges right now. Only the county collects development charges for development in the area. And I don't know if we will have development charges. To be honest, it's something that we've bounced around at the senior management level, but I don't know if we've come up with any hard and fast decisions whether or not to move forward with that at this point. Beyond that, the official plan lays a good foundation for additional work that we can do to promote attainable and affordable housing within the municipality. We have to keep in mind that the official plan is really it's that policy umbrella document that says, yeah, you know, it would be good to do that, and it opens the door for additional work that as a planner, I would start to work on a recommendation to do an attainable housing plan. Well, then I would, in my report, I would say to you, the official plan actually says we can do this, and here's the policies that says we can do this, to help bolster my argument to actually do a plan like that. So that's you'll see that kind of language in our official plan that promotes and supports that sort of work, but that doesn't necessarily drive down to the nuts and bolts piece. It just opens the door for more additional work.
Yeah, no, see it, following it on. Councillor Day, jumping around. Councillor Day. Okay.
So through you, Deputy Mayor Pringle, and again, just to respond to the development charges question there. So it has obviously been a conversation around the council horseshoe, and as Mr. Bennett says, through the senior staff team, it will be something which will come back to council for direction. We had started first steps towards a background study. The background study is the first step towards identifying a development charge. One of the critical pieces of a background study is understanding the cost of what we currently do, so that we can forecast that cost going forward. And a lot of that work is actually embedded within the asset management plan. So one thing leads to another. So once we've concluded the asset management plan, we'll have a much better handle on what our current service level costings are, which then allow us to put those into a background study for a development charge potentially into the future. It ultimately will be council's decision as to whether or not we move forward with a development charge, but we're certainly taking the first steps to make sure we've got the information to be able to start those conversations. I would anticipate there'd be conversations that we'll be bringing forward in 2025.
You know, and Councillor Day.
Last question, which piggybacks really nicely in terms of that comment about having the affordable housing in the plan means it's something that we can work towards in the future years. Just to make sure we're considering all tools that are possible to put in our toolkit. I understand, I wonder if we should revisit windmills, wind turbines, and look at setbacks. I know this is an issue that previous councils have talked about, and as times change, I wonder if opinions change, and it's something that would be worth talking about another day.
I didn't see Mr. Benner rush to answer that one, so I will rush into the breach. Through you, Deputy Mayor Pringle, to Councillor Day. So again, the official plan is very much broad in terms of its context and scope. And yes, times do change. We don't currently have anyone applying or seeking approvals for wind turbines, whether that be domestic or otherwise, across the township. And the basis of that means that we just simply don't have council's direction to say yes without coming back to council. So we are certainly not in a position of absolutely never. That is a conversation that will be held around this horseshoe. It's something that staff don't have your approval and direction to say yes to without bringing back to you. So it would require a zoning amendment and potentially a county official plan amendment as well. So definitely something that can come back at any time. Policies are great, and then you get the people that apply for exemptions from policies on a regular basis. And so at this point in time, we don't have any applications in front of us, but they will, if they come in front of us, would be something that come back to council.
Thank you, Noel. Mayor Carlton.
Thank you. Just some clarity on the development charges. So the fact that we don't have development charges in place does not mean that the township is responsible for infrastructure that goes into a place such as Kilsyth Meadows, that we actually have the ability to put that onto the developer as part of the development agreement, is my understanding.
Yes, that's your deputy mayor to the mayor. Yes, just because we don't have development charges, doesn't necessarily mean that we don't assume development. In a place like Kilsyth Meadows, typically what you see is you tell the developer you need to put in a road, and here's the standards for that road. They do that 100% on their own dollar. They're fully responsible for that. If we did have development charges, there are under development charges, there's certain pieces of infrastructure that through our background study we would identify as municipal works, and then we could apply those development charges towards those municipal works. They may not necessarily be roads, it could be something else, but in terms of private development, we would charge that private development some sort of a development charge, just like the county does, that would then provide a financial support to a municipal work that would be built.
There you go.
And through you, Deputy Mayor Pringle, just to continue Mr. Benner's train of thought there. So your development charges fall into sort of two big brackets: hard and soft. The hard is very much the infrastructure stuff, and so that would be roads, sewers, water that they would pay for. Now they have to be provided for a development to occur. So whether it's us that pay for those things to happen, or whether it's a developer that makes those things happen in order for their development to be successful, it is neither. It swings and roundabouts. It's 50-50. One of the big elements of development charges that the township will consider before going further is the soft services. So there is a cost that the township absorbs to the provision of things like community services, parks, playgrounds, trails, and those various different elements. Now they're things that a developer does not need to create to build a community, but they are things which make a community, and that the township provides its existing residents. So we have 11,000 residents. We have a cost that's associated to providing parks for those 11,000 residents. That is our existing service level. If we continue to fund it at that existing service level under the existing tax base, then as more people move here with development, that cost is decreased. The service level is decreased. You're getting less parks, trails, and open space per person. And so development charges allow for us to look at some of those soft service provisions as well as some of the hard infrastructure. The other big difference with a development charge over the current way in which the township has done these things is, if we leave it to developers, they develop what they need to develop their development. They don't necessarily have the same long-term mindset the township does as to not just where services are needed now for this development, but where might services be needed for the future. And is there ability for us to, instead of building a water treatment facility that can service X many residents, should we be looking at spending a little bit more money from our development charges fund to build that facility so it's future ready, so that we've got capacity for future development. So that's really the conversation around who steers the development, whether the township is going to take control of future development or whether we are going to continue to respond to the development industry when it desires to develop in the township. So it's not really about things happening or not happening. It's just who leads the decisions and directions over what happens.
All right, further questions? I do see Rebecca and David online here now. David and Rebecca there. Michael did a fantastic job of doing the presentation, and we've been kind of doing the question and answer period. I don't know if either of you wanted to add a comment now, or you just want to listen in to how all the rest of the special plan goes.
Yeah, no, I'm really sorry. We had the wrong time in our notes, so that's on us. We apologize for that. We were really looking forward to giving that presentation. So, yeah, if there's any, we'll stay on in case you need a hand with any questions that have come up.
Perfect. Thanks, David. No, that's good. We'll move on to the three delegates that we have to speak here. I do have Vaughn Johnson online. I do see you there, Vaughn. And the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much for letting me in today. I just have a couple of questions. The lady that spoke to the source water concerns, in the case where there is an established cattle grazing operation, and if that area is now decided that it's going to be source water protection, how would that conflict be looked at? Would the fact that the cattle have been there for many years mean they would continue, or would the source water take precedence?
Great question, Vaughn. I'll see who wants to take a crack at her. Let's see the CAO get enough to answer that. Oh, we got Michael who's going to speak to it. Great question.
Sorry, my apologies, Deputy Mayor.
All good.
So before a source water protection source is identified for protection, there's a lot of work that goes into that study for that source. And they being Conservation Authority or the consultants who hired by the Conservation Authority to look into that matter, look at the historical uses in the area. And it's been my experience that typically if historical uses such as cattle grazing or an industrial area and that sort of thing are in that area, they'll work with that. And it could be in the end that that new intake area or that source protection area, a source, is not then used because of historical conflicting uses that are already in place.
Thank you for that, CAO.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. The other thing is that I was interested in finding the maps of the zoning initiatives that are going on or designations, that sort of thing. Are they available somewhere online?
Great question. Vaughn, just hold with us here for a second. CAO.
So through you, Deputy Mayor Pringle, I might ask for a little clarity on the question. So the answer is almost certainly yes. It's just if I might be able to be a little more helpful. So source water protection mapping and areas that are regulated by the Grace Sorbal Conservation Authority. Source water protection is a separate piece, but we asked the Conservation Authority to do it on our behalf. And so those mappings are available through Grace Sorbal Conservation. They will have a map and they will have the approved risk management plans for source water protection areas. More generically, the zoning mapping Zoning is a process which will follow on from the adoption of our official plan. We have a zoning bylaw already, and the zoning maps and zoning schedules are in our zoning official plan, our zoning bylaw, which is 2020-2020. We are,
Okay.
and it has the zoning schedules in it for the township.
Okay.
The last place that you might want to look for mapping for zoning is the county of Grey. Grey County also has an official plan. It covers the whole township, excluding the areas covered by ours. And so the Grey County official plan has diligent, a significant amount of mapping, which is available both within their plan, but is also available online as navigable GIS maps.
Okay, thank you for that. And one last question. Is the township a member of the ICLEI movement? International Council for Local Environments. Are we part of that now?
Yeah.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Pringle, yes, council, when they started the voyage towards the corporate climate action plan work back in 2019, we actually partnered up with ICLEI Canada and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, the FCM, and it's through that portal that we access the ICLEI Canada resourcing.
Okay, I think that covers my questions for now. I am a little concerned that international policies and objectives may conflict with our local requirements for our township. But I guess we'll work our way through that. Thank you for allowing me on today.
Thanks, Juan, for your questions there. They've been documented and appreciate you joining in. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I next have Betty Wood. If you'd like to come to the, okay, we want to go with Heather Barfoot. Perfect. Heather Barfoot, if you'd come to the mic and get the mic back for you here.
I think Betty wants to have the last word. She's my older sister, so she can correct any mistakes I make. I have appeared before council before. As you know, I am very interested and involved in the short-term accommodation discussions going on in Georgian Bluffs. When I read the official plan, I was a little surprised to see if you could bring up the tourism and recreation slide. That would be great. I understand sounds to me like we really had two parallel processes going. The official plan draft discussions were going on at the same time that the working group related to short-term accommodation was going on. And we discussed things that, for instance, zoning as an option for short-term accommodation as part of our process. And as you will all know, that is not included in the staff reports that have been issued related to short-term accommodation. So I'm confused. I'm confused about sort of how do the two processes relate to each other, and a new short-term accommodation bylaw, I do believe, is due to come to council this month. So I'm very curious to know what we see on this slide. Is this part of the plan moving forward, or are we sticking with the recommendations that have been put in the staff reports? That's my first question. I assume you want to answer that, but I do have a couple of other comments as well.
Brittany?
I'll start and feel free to jump in from an OP perspective, because this will be very tailored to short-term accommodations, and noting I'm not a planner. You are correct, Ms. Barfoot, and Heather and I, we're now on first name basis, because we do chat back and forth, which I welcome from all of our owners our STA owners within the township. Heather is correct. This month, as in the next committee of the whole meeting, you will see the first draft of the short-term accommodation licensing program for the township of Georgian Bluffs. It does not include any type of zoning requirements, meaning the owners are not required to rezone their property to a, for example, commercial status in order to host their homes as an STA operation. The regulations reflect the conversations held around the working group that was held in 2023 and reflect a lot of the conversations that have been held around this horseshoe to date. So to answer the first question, they do not, the regulations do not establish a planning process associated with short-term accommodation licensing.
Thank you, Bernie, for that. Michael.
Yes, and to follow up on that, excuse me, that's a good reason why we're here tonight with the public meeting, because one of the things that we'll do following tonight's meeting is revisit some of these policies to ensure that they do reflect the current processes that we have in place at the township. And then also to kind of perhaps take a step back on some of the policies where perhaps they're a little bit too detailed in terms of directions or a path forward. And we don't want to create a policy that's in the official plan that conflicts with our uses right now or our direction in other areas. Also, on the same vein, we don't want to be too broad in our OP policies so that they almost become meaningless. We have to create that balance, and that's something that we'll look at in the coming days and weeks.
You're there, Michael. Heather, you got another question?
Thank you for that. You make me feel better. Okay. The other thing related to tourism recreation, I think Betty may have some comments on this as well. One of the things that I would like to see here are some ideas and policies that will encourage and welcome visitors to the area. For instance, more public water access, for instance. I don't know whether that's been part of the discussion up to this particular point, but I would just like to sort of offer that as, and when I think of an official plan, I think of a framework that allows for development and growth, appropriate development and growth. And of course, tourism and recreation. We live in one of the most beautiful parts of the province, and a lot of our public media related to both the county and the township are about the beautiful area that we live in and really welcoming people. So I would really appreciate as a citizen to see some things in the official plan that are supportive of tourism and recreation. And to that end, I just want to say kudos about the dark sky protection. That's been on my mind for a long time. And I think that is a huge positive step forward. I just wanted to make a point about on the slide, planning for climate change adaptation. There's a point here that says reduction of parkland dedication where sustainability features are used in new development. Example, green roof, renewable energy technologies, water efficiency, etc. Those things are very good when development is being allowed. Green roofs, water conservation, all of those things are very, very positive. I would worry about taking away parks, removing reduction of parkland designation, removing that, which is removing access to allow development that will reduce access. So I don't know, that's not really a question, it's a comment, it's a real concern in my view. I know we have many, there's public forest and there's various things in this region. And I think that protection of those public resources would be absolutely critical. So it's not so much a question. I'm interested in comments about that idea. And I thank you for your time.
That's a great question, or Heather, too, on the reduction of dedicated parkland areas.
Yep.
Michael, would you like to speak?
Sure. A lot of the changes that were made to the parkland section of the official plan were simply to align with recent changes to provincial planning legislation, namely the Planning Act. So it's just aligning with the change in law. That's really what that boils down to. There's only certain parameters for the parkland and the Planning Act, and we're just making sure the official plan aligns with that.
Thanks for
If
the
I may-
clarity there, David. Yeah, Rebecca.
If I might add to that as well, the section in the policy that Ms. Barfoot was referring to, now this wouldn't reduce existing availability of parkland. This would be where a new developer comes in, they're considering sustainability features within their new development, and there might not already be suitable land within their property that would be suitable to convey or grant to the township for parkland purposes. And so similar to how cash in lieu is used for parkland dedication, this would instead replace the sustainability features in their development in lieu of dedicating land to the township to be used for future parkland needs. So it wouldn't necessarily, or it wouldn't affect the existing supply of parkland within the township.
Thanks for that clarification there, Rebecca. Hopefully that helps Heather there and gives us all a better feeling as to what we got out of that. Michael?
Yes, sorry, and just to speak about the tourism piece, we do have policies that recognize that our waterfront is a very important feature for the municipality, and those policies certainly speak to the promotion of our waterfront.
All right, Betty, what you're up?
Just wanted to say that, yeah, obviously, and you're kind of with the tourism part of it, but it impressed me when you were going over what you're doing, how much the tourism ties in with all the other areas that you're talking about, particularly like housing. I've had occasion to be in the hospital quite a bit lately, and just like Councillor Scholdice was saying, so many nurses that we met are coming in to this area. They're staying in short-term accommodation, and they're spending weeks here. They're bringing families on weekends. It all ties together, and there's housing is and all these things. A lot of the other one was a climate change and things. Our trails are such an asset to us, and like you said, the dark skies, all these things are such an asset for tourism. So we're all tourists at one time or another, even in our own backyard. Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you, Betty, for those comments. All right, we have no further residents or members of the public to speak. So that is, does council have any further questions for anybody that spoke? Only comment I had was too, I thought it was very well done, and I thought not only we're protecting the skies, but we've got to protect what's underneath us in the ground too, and the bedrock and the shell resources are a huge factor we got to look at too. So I thought it was very well done. So, all right, I'm going to read the recommendation. The presentation by J.L. Richards and Michael Banner to receive for information, and that the public comments regarding the draft official plan amendments be addressed in the upcoming staff report for council's consideration. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Scholdice, Councillor Day, discussion. In discussion, I'll call all those in favor. That is carried. If there's no further business, I'll now call an adjournment of this public meeting. And the recommendation reads that the public meeting be adjourned and that the committee of the whole resume its regular session. Mover and seconder. Councillor Winters, Councillor Day, discussion. All the vote, all those in favor. That is carried. We now resume committee of the whole business. All right, delegation, public question periods. Items on the agenda. Any person who wishes to appear before council regarding an item on the agenda shall make written application to the clerk by 3 p.m. the day of the meeting. Register www.georgianbluffs.ca/delegations or call the clerk's office 519-376-2729, extension 603. We have no business there. 7.2, items not on the agenda. All the same information you call the day before Thursday preceding the meeting. If they wish to speak at, you register at www.georgianbluffs.ca/delegations or call the clerk's office 519-376-2729, extension 603, and we have no business there. Correspondence. We had the invitation to them in 8.1, the invitation to the multicultural event 2024. Prairie Bruce Settlement and Language Services. Does any member wish to comment? See no comments. 8.2, Memorial Tree Ceremony. Prairie Solo Conservation Authority. Any comments from council? Mayor Carlton.
I think on that one, they are asking for us to waive the permit fee, so we will need a motion to do that because it's something we have done in previous years for them. So I would be happy to make that motion to waive the fee.
Right, we have a motion on the floor to waive the fee for the tent on the property that day. We have first by Mayor Carlton and second by Councillor Day. Comments from council? Okay.
I think that would be kind of something fun to attend. I just was going to make a comment that I don't see a time on this
1 o'clock.
description. It's at 1 p.m., is it? On the 9th. Oh, I shouldn't. I'm on a night shift. I'm between. I shouldn't. Sorry. Never mind. Although that would be fun to attend, I'm respectfully winding up to.
Good. Any further comment? Oh, yeah.
For you, Mr. Chair, just for clarity as well, council will need to waive their donation policy to entertain this request.
Okay. So with the motion on the floor, we need to amend our donations bylaw to allow for this then. What you're asking. All in one. Okay. Need to reword it. Your problem.
I would be happy to amend that motion to waive the donation policy as well as the tent fee for that day.
Perfect. We had a mover and Councillor Day, you're good with the seconding? Perfect. Comments? Yes.
In case anyone is unaware, that committee that organizes the event on Saturday does a lot of fundraising for the Grace Hobble Conservation Foundation. A lot of proceeds go into environmental education and projects for the boardwalks in English Falls that benefit the municipality. And of course, the Memorial Forest itself, which will be the focus of this weekend's event.
All right. I'll call vote on that. All those in favor? Sure. All right, staff reports, Office of the CAO. Recommendation for update to the CAO performance review policy. Recommendation reads that council approve the updates to policy CAO 2024-01, being a policy to guide the CAO performance review process. Need a mover and seconder. Councillor Scholz, Councillor Winters. Who's going to speak to this? I don't have to say really.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Pringle, no, this is an administrative change based on the conversations of council earlier on this year. There was a request for quarterly check-ins or thereabouts, and so this is the minor amendment to that policy to confirm that.
Thank you, Nell, for that. Yes, that was just some good read in there. There's lots of information that I didn't know, so that was really good. Any further discussion from council? Councillor Day.
I appreciate the clarity and having this process prepared and in place. It's an important aspect of what we do here. On page 3, it talks about the CAO preparing a package that includes council evaluation forms. And I just wanted to, and there is the option of having an external third party do that for us if we feel the need for that. I believe another possibility is to have a subcommittee of staff play that role to compile the evaluation forms from the rest of council, which it may or may not be relevant, but it may help folks feel more comfortable giving assessment if they felt like it was coming from all of council and not one person on council.
Gail?
So through you, Deputy Mayor Pringle, so we're not at that stage of this yet. So the evaluation form is the form which was provided as part of the evaluation package that you saw for the first time round, which we'll revisit at the end of the year. And that the policy as it stands at this point is that can come direct to myself for compilation and reflection back, or it can come to a committee, or it can come to a third party. The initial policy and the change that was made was the director of HR or the HR manager was to receive that, but council asked that that be eliminated from the policy in this instance. So, so there are a number of different ways, but we're not at that stage of the process this time round.
Nope. Further questions? Don't see any more. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? That is carried. All right, development and infrastructure 9.2.1 is the DEV 2024-035 award of single source contract Emery Bridge Engineering Services. Recommendation reads that council received staff report DEV 2024-035 valid awarding of a single source contracted for engineering services for the replacement of Emery Bridge, and that council waive section 4.1 limits of bylaw 2019-047 purchasing policy to authorize a single source contract, and that a single source contract with the engineering firm GEI Consultants in the amount of $243,200 excluding HST be awarded, and that the mayor and clerk are authorized to execute the contract for these services. I need a mover and a seconder. Councilor Winters, Mayor Carlton, and Kevin. Let's speak to this.
Yes, thank you. And thanks for having me this evening, and through you, the mayor, to members of council. I'm presenting staff report development 2024-35, and it's recommended that proceed to a single source contract with GEI, formerly GM Blue Plan, in the amount of $243,200. If council recalls, staff presented a staff report on April 17th with design considerations, and at that time, staff asked for council's direction to proceed with negotiations with GEI to enter into a single source contract. Staff have entered into the negotiations with GEI and have found that through value engineering exercises, $243,200 is fair to proceed with the detailed design, construction administration, and warranty inspection, and further GEI will also be included in the tendering administration aspects of the contract as well. So if council wishes to proceed with the single source contract, staff will bring back a contract for signature by the mayor to enter into the single source contract, and staff will proceed with the detailed design and the early engineering or the engineering exercises to proceed with the construction of Emery's Bridge. It is anticipated that a tender can be ready in late quarter of 2024, if not early 2025. And that will set us in a great position to proceed into construction and hopefully get a competitive prices for the replacement of Emery's Bridge.
Perfect. Thanks, Kevin. Questions from council? Yep, Councilor Winters.
Thank you. I'm not opposed to the report at all, but through you to Kevin. My understanding is that council, we had the public meeting. We agreed that the single lane bridge with extended approaches, sidewalks, railings, whatever we're going to call it, was going to be a design parameter. Are we still as council going to see some design options? We haven't picked an option yet that we're totally moving forward with this, correct? Is that my understanding?
So if it's council's wishes, staff can present a future report during the early design considerations, probably near the 30% design considerations. And the reason why I say in the early designs, we don't want to proceed too far with the design and then have to go back to the drawing board per se. So if it's council's wishes, staff can bring a future report.
Well,
I think that would make me personally feel better. I mean, we heard at the public meeting that, you know, some of these wooden bridges were more money than cast in place concrete. And I'm not sure that's a totally true statement. I just think, you know, to do our due diligence, if we don't need to spend $2 million, we shouldn't spend 2 million. If there's a cheaper way to do it and get the same result, we should look at it. And then that was my hope, is that somewhere along the line, very shortly, we would trigger that presentation.
Great comments there. All right. Further questions? Okay, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? That is carried. All right, Community Environmental Services, 9.3.1, CES 2024-013, purchase of a used brush chipper. Recommendation reads that council waive the purchasing policy requirements to allow for the purchase of a used brush chipper via negotiations with the seller or via auction, and the council approved the use of up to an upset limit of $40,000 of the funds that were approved for the purchase of one new brush chipper in 2024 budget, and the council approved the remainder of the 2024 budgeted funds for the purchase of one new brush chipper be transferred to the vehicle and equipment reserve to be utilized for future capital purchases. Need a mover and a seconder. Council winners, Mr. Shouldice. I do have a note here. Staff have a request an amendment to the first line, or sorry, to the last line of the recommendation to read, and sorry, that any unutilized funds remain in the vehicle and reserved for capital purchases, future capital purchases. Or transferred, okay, utilized funds. Okay, got a mover and a seconder. Probably another mover and a seconder for. Okay, so for that amendment there, I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Day, Mayor Carlton. Discussion to the amendment. Not seeing any, call the vote. All those in favor? It's carried. And back to the main motion. Discussion on the main motion on the used brush chipper. Discussion. Okay, Councillor Winters.
Well, I see Jerry's online there, whether he wanted to speak to it or not. I
right.
think this is great, but yeah, he looks like he wants to speak, so I don't want to miss the opportunity for him.
Good comments, Councillor Winters. I didn't even look up to see you there, Gavin. Sorry. Sorry, Jerry. Gavin. Yeah, there you go. That's why I didn't want to say it. All right. Okay, Jerry, you want to speak to that?
Sure, I can, and thank you, Councillor Winters, for the opportunity. So just sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, council may remember that a couple of months ago, I did bring forth a report with a recommendation to purchase a new brush chipper. It was unfortunately over budget, and council, you did decide to turn that report down. Since then, we became aware of Grey County that they are proposing to send down the road their used chipper. They had just purchased a new one. The reason why this report is in front of you currently right now is because I wanted to make sure that we talked about this before summer break, to ensure that we had the ability to purchase this if you so wish and we deem it appropriate. It wouldn't slow us down through the summer because of the summer break. So we currently are using this used chipper that I was talking about, and it is going well so far. Grey County will be putting it up for lower tiers to purchase. They will be sending it to everybody, and we will have an opportunity to bid on this. If we're the only ones, it'll be what Grey County sets as a price. There's an upset limit of 40,000 that I'm requesting, just in case it does get into a little bit of a bidding situation between the other lower tiers. And that is why I'm asking for the permission for the spending of an upset limit of 40,000. And if you have any particular questions regarding this, I'm here to answer them.
Thank you, Jerry, for that information there. Yeah, I know as long as it's you're using it now, obviously it's been working well, so that's good. Any further questions from council? Councilor Winters.
Well, I think it's a great idea. I think it's quite a responsible opportunity that we should take forth. And I'm not even opposed to, hey, if it's working, you like it, it is what it is. There should be money allocated that if you need to refurbish something or you need some upgrades, there's money there to do that. And I think this makes perfect sense, right? And it's probably the best situation is you get to try out something, use it effectively and test it before you own it. Right. So I think this is great.
Great. All right, unfinished business, we have nil. New business, we have nil. Notice of motions. Does any member wish to provide a notice of motion? Not seeing it. Closed session, we have nil. So the date of our next regular meeting is June the 12th at 5 p.m. We have committee of the whole on June 19th at 5 p.m. If there is no further business, I will now call for an adjournment of this meeting. I get a mover and a seconder. Council Winters, Councilor Shouldice, discussion. Call the vote, all those in favor. That is carried. We are now adjourned.